Welcome to our executive interview series at the UiPath On Tour Public Sector Summit produced by FedScoop. I'm Wyatt Cash, and we're here with Chris Bolin, Senior Intelligent Automation Architect for Anika Systems. Chris, thank you very much for joining us.
Not a problem.
First, I'd like to ask, for government agencies that are starting to explore agentic automation, what advice would you give them about ensuring a smooth and an effective implementation?
You know, I just had this conversation, actually did, with a gentleman at the IRS about a week ago. What he said to me, because we were doing a demo of AI and UiPath Maestro, and he said, you can make it look as sexy as you want it to look. And you can grab my attention with the sexiness of the product. But my job is to do is to answer the questions, the technical questions. Are we ready for LLMs in our air-gapped environment? Are we ready for the integration this involves and the infrastructure involves to move away from Automation Suite into UiPath Cloud? Because when we talk about AI and agentic within UiPath platform, these don't reside within the normal developer studio tool. They reside in the orchestrator, in Studio Web, in that platform. So the first step for any agency, number one, is always, do we have the use cases for it, right? How do we develop or see if we have the use cases? Sometimes a UiPath MVP like myself can see use cases where the client cannot see use cases. Sometimes working with Anika, we can go in and we can find use cases. The second part of that is, do we have the infrastructure to support it? Do we need to move to a cloud platform before we do any of this? Move it out, move off of on-prem? What does that involve? What time commitment is that going to be? What resources do we have to complete that? And then, do we then have the roadmap to do that during that period? One of the biggest things I like to say about this is the biggest underlying undercurrent, any type of thing that you do like this, is organizational culture, right? How are you going to get the buy-in? How are you going to help the end user understand, well, this is not replacing me, this is just going to help me, right? And that's a big thing, especially in the current environment, correct? And so you have to get that culture, because once you get that buy-in, then you get the governance, then you get the champions, then you get the evangelism going. And once you start getting that groundswell of support and want and need for it, then you get those use cases bubbling up to the surface. And once those use cases start bubbling up, then you can go and help start integrating it a little bit more smoothly, not choppily, a little bit seamlessly.
Well, that leads me to a second question, which is, with agentic automation's ability to handle more complex end-to-end tasks, what new possibilities do you see that unlocking for agencies like the IRS or other government agencies that really weren't previously attainable?
Back when we first started working with RPA is not cognitive, it's rule-based. It can take away the mundane things, right? And we can give you more power, more time to be strategically ideating. Now with agentic, we're not limited with that rule-based, right? Within constraints and governance, but when you attach a tool with an LLM, contact with an LLM, your agents learn, your agents heal, your agents can start processing cognitively, I should say, like a person can, to a degree. So we can tackle much more complex opportunities. For example, if we think about our technical responses to RFIs and RFQs, solicitations. As a federal agency, I'm sending out the guidelines, the objectives, the SOWs, the PWSs, the RFIs and these are the objectives I want to meet. Now, I'm going to get back a 11, 20-page document from a vendor, a lot of sales fluff. They always are. That's their job, right, is to sell you. And so you have to dig through that fluff. You have to find where they've hidden those objectives. Well, with an agent, the agent can, number one, it can see if that vendor stuck to my requirements, that your 1-inch margins, 12 font, Times New Roman, whatever those may be. It can immediately assess for that. And then the ones that didn't follow the rules, it sets aside. Then it can start examining the response, scoring the objectives, determining where those objectives are, providing a score for all those objectives based on what it's learned by taking that document. Just like if you were to go into ChatGPT as an author and you're looking up analysis on a book, I mean, the agent, ChatGPT, can read that and parse it out for you and get you what you need. That's what an agent can do as well. And then we can then pass that along to a human. So instead of taking weeks to do that process, you've done it in days, right? Second example would be something along the lines of call centers, right? I can have an agent actually handle the entire call, right? Tell me what the sentiment of the caller was. Summarize what the caller wanted. If it's a simple call, I can send the documents that the caller is requesting. I can answer the questions the caller is asking using my agent before I turn it over to a human. So we're filtering out the really small calls and leaving the people to deal with the negative sentiment calls or the ones that are a little bit more complex to handle. So you're really stepping out of the RPA box, and you're really going into a business or into a federal agency, for example, and saying, now let's find some different use cases and we'll do what we can do for you a little bit more broadly than rule-based cognitive.
Well, Chris Bolin, thank you for sharing some of those examples
Absolutely.
with us and joining us here at the UiPath On Tour Public Sector Summit.
Absolutely. Thank you.